Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on when and where you're watching this video. I am Tamika Kerr, and I am here to test your IQ and maybe even teach you something new in our live stream. Remember, the goal here, of course, is to challenge you, to challenge your skills in math, and to also help you with homework. So if you want one of your questions to be featured in our live stream, just go ahead and go on our Facebook. It's down below. Go on our Facebook. Submit your question, your homework question, and we can answer it live on here. Okay, so a couple things. What do we do here? Remember, challenge, challenge, challenge. I want to challenge you. I want to test out your math skills. And the way I do that is by giving you problems like the one you see in front of you or the two you see in front of you. And the challenge is for you to complete the problem before I do. And then there'll also be some problems where I just won't give you the answer because I am looking for someone to answer that question for me. So a couple rules about the chat. Of course, we want to be mindful of everyone that's in the chat. We want to be respectful. Okay, and we want to engage. Remember, the difference between this and watching any other video on whatever our topic is for the day is that we get to interact. You get to talk to me, I get to talk to you. I will be looking at the chat, I'm monitoring the chat, right? And I'm looking to converse. What is going on in your world today? I know some of you are already in vacation mode, but remember, this doesn't have to just be vacation mode. We want to vacay, but we also want to get caught up if there are some assignments that you still need to work on, or if you just want to kind of keep your brain up, right? We don't want our brain to turn to mush just because we take a week off of school. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Today's topic is solving equations. We just did one on solving equation, but that was more the basics of it though. What is a variable, solving 1 and 2 step equations? And now we're going to get into more challenging ones. So we're going from basically 8th grade and above. All right, so those are the skills you're going to be testing. So just to review, to solve a 1 variable equation, we want to distribute, add and subtract our like terms, flip our variables to one side, flip our numbers to the other, and then we're going to flip that coefficient. So again, if you didn't watch the video before, we talked about a different method of solving equations where we flip the term to the other side of the equation and do the inverse operation when we flip. I'll show you an example with the first question in our challenge, okay, which is 3 times something minus 8 equals 19. Now, I could probably do a guess and check and figure out what the value of x is. 3 times 5, if x equaled 5. 3 times 5 is 15. 15 minus 8, definitely not 19. Let's try 10. 3 times 10 is 30. Minus 8, still not 19. Some of you probably already have the answer already. All right, you're getting ahead of the game. But let's talk about the Flippit method. So again, I'm doing reverse PEMDAS. So I need to deal with this subtraction before I can deal with this multiplication. So to get rid of the minus 8, it is going to flip to the other side of the equal sign. And the inverse of subtraction is going to be addition. Now, some of you were taught just, add 8 to both sides and you're lining it up and down. It's the same thing. This is just kind of a different way to show it. So you end up with 3x equals 19 plus 8, which is 27. And then again, to flip this 3, that is 3 times x. So to flip it, it is going to turn into divided by. And that leaves x by itself, and that gives me x equals 9. Is that the answer you got? And we can check that. 3 times 9 is 27. 27 minus 8 is 19. And so that gives you that problem. Now notice in this problem, I didn't have to do all of these steps here. These are the steps for solving any equation. But we don't always have to do every step, right? It's just like cleaning up. There's a list of things that you have to do, but not everything's dirty all the time. And so in this case, we didn't have any parentheses. We didn't have variables to combine. This is kind of one of the basic versions of solving equations, as is this one. So I have 13 minus 5 times something equals 17. So if I go through all of those steps, there's nothing to distribute because there are no parentheses. My like terms are on opposite sides of the equation, and that's why we have that need to flip. So we're starting off by flipping. Notice all of my variables are together, so actually we don't even need to do step 3. So we're going to flip these numbers. So I have a 13 here, and I have a negative 17 here. So I can flip that 17 to this side, or I can flip the 13 to this side. I'm going to flip the 13 to that side because I already have the variable on this side. And remember, I want them away from each other. So I'll end up with negative 5n equals, so when I flip that 13, that'll turn into minus 13, that plus 13. Negative 5n equals negative 30. Now notice this is a negative 5n, and that's because the sign has to stay with the number. And this 5n was being subtracted, so it's going to stay negative. And so then again, I'm going to divide by the negative 5. And I'll get n equals 6. All right, so first 2 questions are up, and let's move on to the third. How many questions do you have right so far? Now, knowing how to solve an equation is one thing, but the whole purpose of knowing how to do something is to be able to use it, right? It's one thing to say, hey, I know how to kick a ball, but we want to be able to play soccer, right? The whole game, not just one skill. And so once we learn how to solve equations, we have to understand how to write them and then how to solve them. So let's look at this problem. I paid $400 to rent office space where I'm tutoring for $30 per hour. So far, I've made $920 in profit. How many hours have I tutored? So the first thing I want to do is identify my unknown here. And the unknown is the actual question. How many hours have I tutored? And that I'm going to assign a name. So let's call H. You can call it X. It doesn't really matter. We get used to variables. It's fine. H equals hours tutored. Because that's the thing that I don't have a number for. I don't have a value for that. I know the 400, I know the 920, I know the 30. Those are values, so I don't need a variable for that. I need a variable for the value I don't know. So if I think about everything that this says, I paid $400. So writing an equation is about translating. We are translating these words into symbols and numbers. So paying $400, that is a loss. It's coming out of my pocket. So that is going to be a minus 400 or negative 400. Because I am starting off in debt. Now it also says I am tutoring for $30 per hour. Mobile Learning Center, we keep our rates reasonable. So $30 per hour. So to figure out how much money I'm making tutoring, that is $30 per, means for each. And for each is multiplication per hour. So that's multiplication. And then hour. Remember, hours is the value I don't know. So that's going to be 30 times H. But I do know that I made a profit of $920. So we know that it's going to equal 920. So now I'm putting all of those pieces together. So all the rest of that stuff is meaningless. We already pulled out our key information. So my key information basically says $30 per hour minus the $400 that I spent equals $920 in profit. Profit just means the money that I make after my expenses. And then from there, I will solve. So the question is, how many hours have I tutored? Go ahead and comment below if you think you know the answer. Because for this one, I'm giving you the setup, but I'm not going to give you the actual answer for this. Why? Because the goal is to challenge you. So how many hours do Did I tutor to make that $920? Remember, we are using inverse operations to solve these problems. Okay, so while you're thinking that through, I'm going to move on to the next problem. Notice they're getting more and more challenging. So we are up to question 3. Yikes. Look what I did. Uh-oh, I don't want you to see all the rest of the questions yet. It's not time yet. All right, so we are on to question 4 now, which again is a multi-step problem. So when you see problems like this, think of a numerator as being in parentheses. So it's going to be all of this divided by 4. So there's 2 ways you can deal with this problem. One would be to distribute this division the same way we do multiplication. The other way would be to flip this division, because all of this is being divided by 4. So I can actually flip the whole thing into multiplied by 4. Or the way you've seen it maybe in the past is multiplying both sides by 4, right? And these 2 things will cancel out. And that allows us to get rid of the 4. The way I would show it using that Flippit method is divided by 4 turns into times 4. And I end up with 16 minus 3x equals -8. Okay, so from here, you should already be comfortable working with this type of problem. Again, if not, go back to that previous video where we practice problems like this a lot. Okay, so I am going to this minus 16, and I get -3x equals -24, and divide -3, and I get x equals +8. Did you get it before me? Am I working too slow, too fast? Let me know in the comments. Remember, my goal is to teach you, and the way I improve is when you let me know things like that, like, oh, you moved way too fast, or, you know, don't give us the answers to any of these problems. We want to work them all out. I'd be all for that too. All right, so again, we always want to be able to make these connections. So let's look at a bigger type of problem. So my goal is to save $5,000 for something. What am I saving for? Anybody? Let's say I'm going on a trip. I am going on a trip. Although right now there's so many things shut down, I don't know where I'm going, but I'm trying to go on a trip and it's going to cost me $5,000. I already have $1,700 in the bank and I will save $120 each week. I have to ask my boss for time off. So the question is, when will I have enough? Now this is a real world problem, right? So not the, I'm going to the store and buying 200 apples. This is something that's realistic. You need to tell your boss when you're not going to be at work, and you need as much time as possible so you can get that time approved. So if you're trying to save that $5,000, you want to know when that's going to be done so that you can ask for that time off for your trip. Now remember, already having a value means that that's something that is already there. So that can be added to what you save each week. Just a little bit of a hint. All right? Because for this one, I'm not giving you the question, and I'm not giving you the answer. That is up to you. All right, so just giving you a little bit of time. While I'm giving you a little bit of time, I want to know how your vacation's going. So I know this is day 1 of your vacation for a lot of you. You have the whole week off. I don't know if it feels any different. I know you're not doing the class. For some of you, you are only doing virtual class. So how's it feel to have a day off, to have a vacation day? What are your plans? Go ahead and comment. Okay. So looks like we have a rate here. All right, I'm hearing this having something to do with it. But of course, you can always pause the video if you need more time. But I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next question. So remember, that's one of our red line questions, which means that's one of the questions I am not going to assist you with. I just gave you a couple little hints. That's not bad, right? But I am going to move on to this next problem. So this says I'm going to pay for 1 month of marketing. Marketing is important anytime you're trying to get your name out there, your business out there, trying to build clientele, build followers, whatever the case may be. It is important to market. So if I'm going to pay for 1 month of marketing, Aiden's Advertising said they would market for me for a $40 subscription fee and $4 per click. Melissa's is $9 per click with no fees. Explain how I can use the equal value or break-even point to decide which company to use. Equal value means exactly what it sounds like, where their value is equal, where they are the same. And the reason that's important is because if we know where it's the same, then we know when to use which company. So if I look at Aiden, our rates is going to be $4 per click. And the thing that's changing are the clicks, right? I don't know how many people are going to click on my ad. And so let's say that X equals my clicks. How many clicks? Right? And I can think that through by saying, all right, if it's 2 clicks, that would be $8. 3 clicks, that would be $12. But it's not just the $12 because I would pay $4 per click plus that $40 subscription fee. Right? And then we have Melissa's, which for Melissa's, she charges $9 per click. So that's going to be 9x. And there's no fees. So there's nothing we're starting with. Now, when we say equal values, we want to know where those points are equal. Because when we first look at it, you might think like, oh, Melissa's way cheaper. But what happens once I have like 100 clicks? Is Melissa still cheaper? Right? So we find this equal value. So notice this is an equation where we end up with variables on both sides. So when we look back over here, when we're solving these equations, we want to flip all of our variable terms to one side and we want to flip all of our constants to the other. So when I'm looking at this problem, I have a 40 on this side. So I can either flip this 9 over here or I can flip this 4x over here. I'm going to flip the 4x because again, I'm trying to separate the numbers from the variables. So this plus 4x is going to turn into minus 4x over here. And when I combine my like terms, I get 5 x's. And then again, I'm going to divide by 5. And that will give me x equals 8. Which means at 8 clicks, both of those companies would be the same. Anything after 8 clicks, then we might want to go with Aiden because he's not charging as much. His rate of change isn't as much, even though he's starting with that higher amount. And so that's what's important about equal values is it helps us to decide between two things that are changing. All right, did you get that one before me? Okay. So going back to that whole idea of equal values, let's look at a problem like this one. All right. I'm giving you a head start. So I'm talking because I'm giving you a head start to go ahead and finish this, but I'm going to run through this one fairly quickly. Okay, nothing to distribute, nothing to combine. Boom, flip my variables to one side. I'm going to flip this one over here. And I get 13 equals my 4m minus 7. Now I'm going to flip this 7 over here and it's going to turn into plus 7 because that was being subtracted. So I'm left with 20 equaling 4m. Oh, sorry about that horrible m. Okay, and then I'm going to divide 4. And 5 is equal to m. Now, notice I didn't have to have my variables on the left. I know we get used to that, but we don't have to have our variables on the same side. All right, so moving right along to another real-world situation. Why? Because they are important. Okay? So, Damien had 84 followers and gets 9 followers each day. Eric has 162 followers and gets 5 followers each day. Will Damien ever catch Eric? If so, when? If not, how do you know? Okay. where do we start with this? All right. So notice we're talking about two different people. So we're kind of talking about two different situations. That's the first hint that I'm going to be dealing with two separate equations or two separate expressions and then making them equal to each other, because we're talking about Damien catching Eric. So this is how I know that this is going to be another equal values type of problem. So he has 84 and gets 9 each day. 9 each day. And Eric has 162 and gets 5 each day. So the thing that's changing, or the thing that is varying, are the number of days. Because every time the days change, press a random button. Every time the days change, their followers change. So for Damien, it is going to be 9 times the number of days, 9, 18, 27, right? Depending on the number of days, plus the 84 he already has. Same thing with Eric. He has 5 followers per day, 5 each day, plus the 162 he already has. Okay, again from here, now I'm going to flip terms. So I'm going to flip this 5x to the left, and it turned into minus. And then this 84, this plus 84, is going to flip to the right. Now, if that confused you, do them one step at a time. That's fine too. I'm just kind of quick stepping it because I know that you can pause and see what's going on if you have any questions, or you can ask questions in the chat, or you can comment down below if you had a question on how I did both of those at the same time, and I will respond to each question. Also notice that I did not divide to move this 5x because all I'm doing is moving it. I'm not splitting the 5 from the x. So now I'm simplifying, and I have 4x equaling 162 minus 84. And I am not going to grab a calculator just because I feel like it's going to be easier for me to just do it quickly over on the side because I didn't have my calculator pulled up already. All right, so that gives me 4x equals 78, and then divide 4. Oops. And I get x equaling 1 and, whoa, all right. Looks like we're going to end up with a fraction of some sort. So 78 divided by 4, that's 1. 4 goes into 38 9 times, and that's going to give me 36. All right, 4 goes into 20. Notice I left my decimal here 5 times, and that's going to leave me with no remainders. So I end up with 19.5, which just means 19 and a half days because we're not getting all of our followers at the same exact time each day. So sometime within that 20th day, we will have the same number of followers. Now, the bonus question in this is how many followers will each of them have? And that's the part of the question that I am not going to answer for you. Again, comment below. I want to see who's the first person to get a perfect score on this IQ test. Remember, this is testing you all the way up through, I would say, probably like 10th grade math, at least 9th, higher level algebra problems. Okay, so now we're on to the final stretch. The final stretch, we're just going to take a look at a couple more problems. This first problem is dealing with fractions, and I know some of you fear fractions. Here's the thing, we don't have to fear fractions if we can get rid of fractions. So one way to do this problem is to, is to do it the same way we've been doing it. And if you have a calculator, that's probably fine to do it that way. But if you're expected to do it without a calculator, my suggestion is to just get rid of those denominators by finding a common denominator. So notice these 3 denominators are 4, 6, and 1. And so if I think of a common denominator between those 3, it's going to be 24. And so what I want is something over 24 plus something over 24 equals something over 24. Because as we know, that's the easiest way to deal with adding and subtracting with fractions. So to get 1/4 to be over 24, I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 6, getting that equivalent fraction. Same thing here, I'm going to multiply everything times 4. And then here I'm going to multiply everything times 24. Because 1 times 24 equals 24. And remember, whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. So I'll end up with 48. Once I have a common denominator, guess what? They can go. It's just like multiplying everything by 24. And what I end up with is 6t plus 20 equals 48. Again, that's as far as I'm going to help you because I want to challenge you to see if you can get it from here. Because remember, after this point, it turns right back into those same problems we've been working with, the two-step equations. All right, now we're getting faster with it. And uh-oh, look at this one. This one looks like it has a little bit of everything in it. Because I see some distribution, and we have not seen distribution so far. Distribution means I have parentheses, and I need to distribute that multiplication into the problem. Okay, so again, I'm just talking and kind of giving you little hints because it is my goal to give you a little bit of time, give you a little bit of head start. Because remember, I do this for a living, so I'm probably a little bit faster. Probably. I don't know. Some of you out there, I've seen some people out there, you guys are good at this. Your IQ is way up there. So you might get it before me. You might already be done. But I'm going to go ahead and run through it. So again, we're going to distribute this -6 to everything in here. So -12p minus 24, because I'm distributing that negative as well, plus 32 equals -10p. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and combine these like terms, and I get -12p plus 8 equals -10p. Now I'm going to flip this -12p and turn that into plus 12p. And I get 8 equals 2p. Divide that 2. And I get p equals 4. Did you get it? If not, how close were you? All right. Wow. Okay. So again, another one with everything in the problem. And remember, because we think of these parentheses or as a numerator as it being in parentheses. So that's how you have to think about that problem. Now, am I going to solve it for you? I don't know. Maybe. Okay. So let's go back through these problems. So remember, in order to solve multi-step equations, we have to distribute. We have to combine our like terms. We want to simplify as much as possible in those problems. We try and get all our variables to one side, all of our numbers to the other, and then we divide or multiply to get that variable by itself. Those are the steps, and we can do those steps in this problem, or we could choose to get a common denominator first, get rid of those fractions, and then do the problem. So these were the problems in our quiz for today. 11 problems, technically 12 if you talk about the bonus problem. So I want to see who was first to get the 12 out of 12 in this. And remember, don't forget to comment, subscribe, like. I want to start doing this twice a week instead of just Mondays at 1 o'clock. I would like to start doing this Mondays and Wednesdays at 2 o'clock. So if I can get up to 50 likes. If I can get 50 likes on this video, then I can start doing this twice a week. And then when we come back and start prepping for finals and our midterms and anything else you got going on before the Christmas or before the winter break, you know, I can be doing this 2, maybe even 3 times a week. All right. Thank you for your time. Remember, comment below with all of those questions, all of those red letter questions, the answers to those red letter questions in here. Right? And also any questions that you want to see featured